Now, I'm not sure who's interviewing you, but I have always wanted my own TV show called Demographics Tonight. And I've got it. And I've always wanted to meet Maggie Beer. I've only ever seen her on television. And I've always thought, we had a chat just before we came in. And I always thought the most happiest, most infectiously happy person that just comes down the camera lens, and what a pleasure it is to meet her. And I've always also admired the patriotic South Australian connection. Always proudly South Australian. I think the most famous South Australian personality. Sorry, Jay Weatherall. Anyway, very happy to meet you. So very nice to meet you, Maggie.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Welcome. Thank you. Now, I know we want to talk about your program for food in aged care and so forth. But I'm interested in your take on my view around ageing. I know you were Senior Australian of the Year a few years ago.
Yes.
Do you have any observations around ageing today compared to ageing, the perspective of ageing from decades ago?
Well, absolutely. But I have to say I so agree with Jane about the fact that this old senior and all those words are negative words, and we've got to find something and embrace the fact that this is a great time of life. And it's a great time of life if you can, if you're fit and if you're mentally still with it, and if you're engaged and all of these things that are so essential to ageing well. They're really important, and we can make it happen for everyone with a cultural shift, with a mind shift.
Well, I'm quite convinced that if you go back to the 1930s, I wasn't around in the 1930s, but people who were in their 50s were old people. They looked old, they dressed old. They knew they were about less than a decade from the end. So you started to act old. I mean, if you're 50 years old today, you've got another 30, maybe even 40 years of. You can't act old when you've got another 30 years of life. I think that's the reality of it.
And that's the fantastic thing that we should be embracing. That we're preparing for older age a lot earlier, but preparing to live right to the very end. And we can say death.
We can use the D word.
Yes, yeah, and it's really important that we help people to be able to give them the resources, give them the support to be actively involved in life right to the very end.
I can actually see a need for lifestyle diversity, different narratives, so that life between 50 and 85, let's say 55 and 85, can take a number of paths. Some people might want to work on, remain at work in a reduced capacity. You're not working 60 hours a week. You may well be working 60 hours a week.
I am.
Right, can't stop her. But other people might want to work, 2 or 3 days a week, do some travelling, do some volunteering, spend time with your partner, re-partner, I've no idea. But again, I think that having a number of narratives, so that people say, that Maggie Beer or that person over there, that's the lifestyle I identify with. And I can see myself living like that. What I can see is that I don't want to live as my parents lived.
Yes.
Love them dearly, but I am not doing that.
I think that's the easier road. I think the harder road is how we help people that have had hard lives up to now, really, really hard lives, and they are without a lot of choice sometimes, and how we help them to embrace life at the end of their life right now, because you said it, Jane said it, baby boomers have changed the world the whole time. They're not going to accept what is there now. So we have to be putting things in place, and to me, quite simplistic, I guess, or almost naive, that food is the centre of all that. Because without beautiful food, where comes the pleasure in life, the vitality, the energy to be involved physically and mentally? So even though, all the things that I think about, food is the centre of the plate, but it's the nexus of it all, but there are so many other things.
Well, again, I think that food has has certainly shifted in the perception of all generations of Australia. When I was growing up in the 1960s, it was meat and 3 veg. I didn't know what a zucchini was until I was 18 and went to Melbourne. In fact, it was an exotic vegetable brought out by the Italians. I think it might have been here all the time, but I didn't know what a zucchini was, or avocado for that matter, or bok choy, or choy, was it pak choy, choy sum, all of that. But again, I think that this leads into your new concept. Is it Appetite for Life? Tell me about that program that you're behind.
Well, Appetite for Life is our banner, if you like, but food being the centre of it to allow all these other things to happen, and whether you're in the home looking after yourself in older age, or whether you're in an aged care home, not a facility but a home, you need to be involved and connected, and you need to have things that engage you. You need to have choices, and you need to have identity. And so they're the things that I'm wanting to work on with Appetite for Life. Identity for those that are have been quite passive all their lives.
How does it actually work? Is this the preparation of a meal? Is it different types of meals? How does this actually work? What's the practical?
Well, the practical parts of it is where you can have the smells of home cooking, where you can have fresh vegetables that have been used rather than frozen, where you can have cooks and chefs that are proud of what they are serving to their residents, because the positive nature that the positive energy that comes through having beautiful food, because there's the nutrition and the pleasure, the pride, giving cooks and chefs the kudos, the respect. They are able to do so much to look after people that are in aged care and make the difference in their life. So it's all around the plate.
Is this something that you've started in South Australia? Is it a movement that is going to extend to other cities?
Oh,
other
yes,
states?
It's absolutely a national movement with a national board very specifically to make sure of that. And the practical, getting back to the practical, I get off the point. I know. Getting back to the practical is I'm just about next month do our 3rd masterclass. Now, a masterclass might not sound that it can change the world, but it has changed so much in the last year and a half, where we bring 30 cooks and chefs. The first one was from Victoria over to the Barossa, and we bring them all in together for 2 to 3 days, where we absolutely ask all their problems, ask all the impediments to what they are doing. We give them practical advice. We brainstorm and share the good stories, because there's lots of bad out there, but there's lots of good. And we energise them with ideas, new thinking, bring in experts of nutritionists and practitioners, people that are doing it wonderfully. They go back to their home and they spread the message down. And the letters that we get from the residents, the letters from the residents, the letters from their bosses. You've ruined my budget. Yes, I've ruined the budget. But the thing that's so really interesting about that is whenever I'm travelling interstate, because Mila, which are a really fantastic company and cookware company, they provide somewhere for us to have a soiree where I bring in the cooks and the chefs that happen to have come from Queensland or northern New South Wales, and they bring their bosses, right? They bring their CEOs, and the difference that I see in these people. The difference because they're proud, they've been recognised. I bring in a celebrity chef to give them some inspiration and to say, you are important in this world of food. And the differences are so enormous that a few weeks ago in Brisbane, when I had one such, I asked them how they were going, and this gentleman called Gilbert stood up and said, Maggie, I have only butter. I have thrown out the margarine. We have no low-fat cordials, low sugar, anything. Every vegetable is fresh and in season. and every soup is made from a stock, I start from scratch. That can change. That can be a movement. The difference that makes. And as much as I absolutely believe there's this huge opportunity for business case for food manufacturers, it won't be me unless it's an export, because I don't want to sort of blur the lines between the work, the foundation and my business. But it has, no matter whether the big homes that have commissaries have got to think very differently. They've got to know that real food has, even being made by the thousands, has got to translate to the end product to feel like home. That takes new thinking.
All of that is just so inspirational, and again, it's just that infectious happiness that just you cannot but smile if you're in Maggie's presence. What I want to know is, are you noticing any trends, for example, in this movement? Any food trends that might be different to mainstream trends? That something unique that you think, oh, that's unusual. That's this program has uncovered.
Well, yes, I guess in all the reading, the learning that we've been doing, and I've been working with Professor Ralph Martins from Edith Cowan University in Western Australia on food to protect our brains from dementia, right? That's a sort of like a preliminary, not just for aged care. But what it has done is shown me amazing value in foods that have been rejected as being commonplace and not very interesting.
Such as?
Such as lentils and chickpeas. And now if you offer that to someone who hasn't had a diet of lentils and chickpeas, they'll say, no, like kale. You know, who loves kale here? I love kale, but you need to use words to describe them in a familiar way and bring in these, like children when you're trying to get them to eat greens, right? It's that kind of thing. But what really nutritional food can do when it's cooked with love and cooked with real flavour, and that's just one example of what we've learned and what we
There is
use.
no doubt that the nutrition element is absolutely critical, and I certainly see that being increasingly important with processed food and fast food going into the future. But what I like about this is the idea of preparing food smells, the idea of actually collecting food and creating something. There's a creative element to it. There's a homeliness, I think, to a home-cooked meal that you just cannot get in a hotel room or in a restaurant, that actually builds a sense of place, that actually builds connection. This, I think, goes beyond the food. Whether, in fact, that was part of the design, or is that just a happy accident?
No, it's always been that knowledge of bringing people together, making it be their home. To all of these elements are so important. Right from the outset, we knew how important that was, and it works, but it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen easily unless you have champions.
Right, and the champions?
The champions become the cooks and the chefs that come to these masterclasses, and we have a project called Champions of Change, where they are linked together now as a community, and they help each other with ideas and problems, because everyone has problems, but you can solve them if you put your mind to it.
What this prompts me is this idea has come from you. You're the major driver behind this. From a Senior Australian of the Year, there is no end to the creativity. Is there anything else bubbling away that you think, well, I might be able to do this, or I might be able to do that?
Well, yes, because there's the issue of those in their home without needing Meals on Wheels to come to them because they're not able to cook for themselves. So every organisation, Meals on Wheels is an amazing organisation, but we can all do better all the time. And how can we bring in intergenerational, for those at home and those in their homes, we have to bring in community, we have to bring in involvement, we have to bring in how we work together Look,
So you can actually just extend this, if you like. You just
yes,
through.
we can absolutely extend this, and Meals on Wheels are so open to working with finding new ideas. A young chef from there just applied for our next masterclass last night. And so I think, wow, yes, that's what I want. A different way of, I want a different way of taking the food to the home.
Very good. Now, this is just so inspirational. What I want to know is how the idea, has this been germinating for years,
No.
or has this just come to you in the shower or something like that? How do you come up with something like this?
Well, it happened because I was made Senior Australian of the Year and 900 requests to speak.
Right.
And I chose, and the one that was really important was being to 1,000 CEOs of aged care. And it was a keynote, so I did a lot of preparation. So I went to Meals on Wheels in Victoria. I did all my research in Victoria, so it wasn't too close to home. And I went to homes that were wonderful and terrible. And Meals on Wheels was so fantastic, doing 500-600 a day and smelt like home, and ones that were terrible. And I put it all together, and I thought I was helping, but I was naive, because it is an incredibly complex space. But out of that talk for 55 minutes came threads that have led me to this. And one was Dr. Stephen Judd of Hammond Homes in Sydney, the biggest dementia carer in New South Wales. And he wanted a catalyst for change. So I found him a catalyst for change in a chef called Peter Morgan-Jones, who has changed dementia food for the whole of New South Wales and now the whole of Australia. It's there as a benchmark of what's possible. So that started it, and I thought, well, the government hasn't got the money. Any government people hasn't got the money, and so I better just do it ourselves.
Well, that's just absolutely inspirational. Appetite for Life is the program, and of course the major driver behind it is the most famous South Australian, Maggie Beer. Please thank Maggie Beer for her contribution. And I would like to thank KPMG and CEDA for allowing me to have this program, Demographics Tonight. I'm going to use this as a pilot, in fact, Demographics Tonight. Thank you very much.